This is Alex Golden, and you're watching DCOT on Cots Corner, bringing the fire.
Hit it hard, every day on the move, trying to get it off. Hit it hard, they might think that I'm rude when they hear me talk. Hit it hard, hit them all with a droop, then I grit it off. Hit it hard, gotta stick and keep moving to get it off. Hit it hard, every play in the groove, trying to get the ball. Hit it hard, I won't say, but this move got me real off. Hit it hard, I mean off the charts, know I'm the biggest boss. Hit it hard, gotta live it, stay true or you miss it all. Hey, facts over feelings, don't worry about how you feeling. No, we just keep it the realest. Know I'm a warrior, know I control with these people. Must teach them with lethal, with wisdom. Locking with decon to chop it and listen. We'll hop on the block, dropping knowledge, uplifting. Lately been popping it off, the topics they want. We're blocking and drop what they missing. I gotta stick to the mission. Roll tide over critics who listen. No time for a biased opinion. Most guys going live for a living. Those type just be trying to survive. Hard times got them starving and living. Game time always starving to give it. And most times it's on life. Post hype for the vibes. Numbers going up high. Views going up high. Looking down from the sky. Always gotta
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Game Time Network in Cots Corner. And today I've got a special guest with me today. Been on the show before. We've connected at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. My guest, Coach Scott Moore from Grace College, one of the best coaches in the country, regardless of the area you're looking at. We're going to take a deep dive into the DNA of hoop country, global basketball philosophy, art of getting absolute peak performance from every single player that steps onto the court. Coach is going to share a lot of dynamics about Grace College. He's going to share some information that you all may not have heard. He's played professionally in Australia, China, Mexico, and who else knows? But he's going to be sharing that information with us today. He's built one of the most efficient, disciplined, high-octane programs in the NAIA basketball, developing National Player of the Year, winning national titles, setting the standard for basketball, how it should be played in the state of Indiana. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Coach Scott Moore. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, I like that intro, man. You need to let that play a little bit. That's nice.
Hey, Marcus Watts, man, Warren Central grad. That's my dude.
That's
so appreciate that. So before we get into the questions, man, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's a little crisp in the air, right? It's a little, that fall weather's creeping in a little here, and it's pretty cool, man. I'm in my office right now. School starts tomorrow, so most of my kids are creeping on campus now. So it's good, man. I love summer, but it does get to a point where it gets to August, like, all right, like it's time to go, man. I miss
now
my
we're
dudes.
talking.
And yeah, man. So we're ready to roll. Yeah, just excited just to see everybody and get this preseason underway, man.
Good deal. So as we get started, right, we're going to get into, your international playing days, that ridiculous efficiency numbers your Lancers are putting up. I want to start where I began for you, though. Northern Indiana, growing up, Northern Indiana, live and breathe this game from day one. We talked before about the Hoosier feel for you. Before you ever put on a whistle, drew up a play, what was it about the Indiana high school basketball culture that forged a standard of toughness and team play for you, and how your dynamic is today?
Yeah, we just grew up in an amazing time, man. And this, especially being in Indy, like, when I grew up, we were born in the mid 80s, and it did help having an older brother. I think that's one thing is, Matt's 6 years older than my twin brother and I. And, at that time, those late 80s, early 90s, not only was Indiana basketball, the Hoosiers a big deal, but like Indiana high school basketball was a big deal. And from the day I can remember, man, like just walking into those sectionals and seeing these, it didn't matter where you went, whether it was a school of 400 kids or 4,000 kids, man. You go to those Friday night games and you see how I was always enthralled with how invested the towns were in these 16, 17-year-olds, and how, like, man, it's like, this is such a big deal to these communities. And I lived in a small community, right? Columbia City, we were in the middle between Warsaw and Fort Wayne, and just a little farm community. And I got to see that firsthand, where it's like, man, the energy, and just, Hoosiers was, just came out on the movie theater. And it's like, everything about it was just, this is what I want to be a part of. And so having twin brother helped. We got to, unfortunately, class basketball changed, 97. It went to that class basketball. So I remember vividly, though, 8, 9, 10 years old, going to the Dome and being able to see that Final Four, and seeing those teams like, the Muncie Southsides, the Ben Davises, the Marions, like, all those teams just battle out, and all these great high school players. And it just really, I think that's where it started with me, is it just, there was a love about, an appreciation about the game, that I kind of grew from there. And I think there was a respect from the game. I think, you talk about, you get into coaching and philosophy and things like that. Well, that's all learned over time, and, different people you meet. But I remember to this day, like, I was a weird kid where, my high school coach, when he was going around, and, we didn't have film where you could just get on Synergy and break down games. Like, you went to games, and you did a pencil and paper, and you scouted the team you're playing.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, hey, being in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, like, can I go with you to watch these teams? And so we'd drive to Fort Wayne, or we'd go to East Noble or Carroll or Homestead. And I'm a 6th grader, and I'm with my high school coach, and I'm doing scouting things for, the team that my high school team's got. I'm not even in high school, right? And so that just all about that, man. Just on top of that, when you got the Indiana Hoosiers that are really good, you got the Damon Baileys, the Calvert Cheneys, the Allen Hendersons, like that. Just that time, the early 90s, man. I think it was the best time of basketball in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
So that's where I would agree.
I would agree 100%, and you talked about, your brother, right? And that's a nice segue into my next question. So overseas ball is famous for relentless ball movement, heavy European, high pick and roll action, isolation heavy style. We often see in the United States now. So when you first landed in Australia, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make on your own as a point guard, coming from the great basketball state of Indiana?
Yeah, well, the first one challenge was, I'm going to be honest, was the shot clock. Just 24 seconds, man. Like, remember when you're in college, we still had a 35-second shot clock. It had not gone down to 30 yet. And so when you're talking about 11-second difference, that was a huge, huge difference for us. And so, being able to get the ball in your hands out of bounds, like, there was no walking it up. It was, you're going to get up, you're going to get the ball up the floor, you're going to have one action or two actions. And then the reality was, like, you got to take the best first shot you have, because you're not going to get another one then. Like, the worst thing. And so the toughest part with the transition from college basketball to professional was just being, I was always about efficiency in high school, same thing in college, and now same thing as a coach. But, like, you would have to, teach yourself to, hey, that may not be a great shot, but it's the best shot we're going to get right now. And honestly, what I learned with the European game was interesting. People think it's so sophisticated. It's actually, I think it's more simplistic. I think there are certain things they do that can become extravagant, but, like, we would get the ball, Daryl, and we'd get the ball up the floor, and we had 2 6'8", 6'10" post players. Both were phenomenal. One kid was best player I ever played with, was, I honestly, NBA style player. We'd do a high ball screen, just like a drag screen. And then I would have reads off the drag ball screen. And my decision in that first 5 seconds of the possession led to essentially what was going to happen the rest of the possession. So we had some certain things we did, and it got to be pretty extravagant over time, but it was really the simplistic of, like, okay, the ball's in my hands. I'm going to go high drag screen early. I've got the opportunity to throw it to him or come off of it. And then from there, I have to make a read, and my read will dictate whatever happens the next 10 seconds. Right. So that was really good. And I got to be pretty close with my coach overseas, and it was really neat to pick his brain about like, hey, stuff over here, there is a lot of European influence in this Australian game. You know, how do you think the game? What do you try? What do you focus on? Like, what's a big deal? And so that was just a really good for me, because honestly, I think that's one thing. I'm glad you asked that. That's one thing I don't talk a whole lot about, is people think, you know, your coaching days, where do you get your stuff from? I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the stuff that we do, some of that is taken from that time period of me just as a player in Australia. So had a lot to do with it, honestly.
Good deal, man. I like hearing that, right? And I want to, and when we have this conversation, I always want to bring out something that maybe the viewers and listeners would think is pretty, really good, and something that they hadn't heard before. So speaking of that, tactical integration, right? Now that you're on the sidelines, where can fans see the international fingerprint? Because you kind of hit a little bit in Grace's offense. Are there specific secondary breaker concepts, quick hitting, multi-action sets that you brought back from overseas that D. Cott can look at on New Year's Day when you're playing in gamers like Fieldhouse?
Yeah, probably less quick hitters and things like that. The game has evolved so much, and like the synergy stuff like we talked about. And I've got two really good assistant coaches that I try to do more, let them be more offensive coordinators and have a little bit more freedom to be able to create. Right. But one thing that you can see, and you've already seen it with us play, is this kind of came from the San Antonio mix. Popovich kind of brought it back into play, but just the ultimate ball movement. The ball just never sticks. And having this idea where, okay, can we put 5 players on the floor who can all shoot, pass, and dribble? That's that skill set you talk about. Like, people always talk about the European bigs. They're not your typical, like, Shaq ain't coming from Europe, right?
Yeah.
Like, Olajuwon ain't coming from Europe. Those guys, Patrick Ewings, those guys, like Embiid's, those big-bodied. But, like, now you see those skill set, the jokers, I guess even Embiid a little bit has improved so much where it's like those guys are starting the offense, right? Yeah. And that's not common. Like, we didn't grow up, like Alan Henderson wasn't starting the offense for Bob Knight, right?
He should have.
Yeah, he could have probably. But you see that now, and especially how we play is, I've got post players who are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", who are literally like, they're our trigger men in our half court offense, and the ball's going through their hands. And that's pretty uncommon here in the United States until it started to catch up a little bit. I think you see that with the NBA, the players, the guys who are doing that, man, some of the most skilled players in the league are the post players. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they got to be both, right? You got to handle the ball and also play it in the post and be able to read. Right? Because if you're not reading, you're going to fail your team, and you're going to find yourself next to Coach Moore.
And the reality, too, is like their ability. I was always amazed, even more amazed when I finally got to see it. Their ability to shoot the basketball. Like, and I'm from Indiana, right? I'm from Corner. Everybody shoots the ball here. Like, cornfields, right? What else are you going to do? But you saw that, like, holy cow, this 6'8" post guy shoots 44% from 3, and it's like he's catching shooting, and you just weren't used to that when I was playing, right? You get your butt under the basket, you got a 15-foot radius, stay in that area, rebound, kick it out, whatever. But that's what's really changed, and I think you can see that with the way we play, just the more 5-out concept of, hey, if you're going to play for us, you have to be able to make decisions because the ball's going to be in your hands more than you think. So, that's where you see it.
Oh, no, good point there. So, speaking about your guys in 5-out, recruiting. When you're evaluating high school prospects now and on the AAU circuit, everyone watches it. We know that everyone can score off the bounce. But given your international background, what are some of the subtle off-ball decision-making traits are you looking for, other than what you just shared, high IQ and also style and flow? I want to get that a little bit.
Well, I'm going to go back. I think The first thing I ever learned, I'm going to throw out a name. I don't know if you were at Jason G. So Coach G was a coach. He was an assistant coach for Cleveland State at the time. And I remember being a young assistant coach. I was at Mount Vernon, Ohio. We just got back from overseas. It was my first year coaching. And you know how it is when you're 24, you know everything, right? Like I knew it all.
You're a genius. You're a genius.
And I'm sitting next to this coach. I have no idea who it is. And Coach G introduces himself, introduces where he's at. He talks about Mount Vernon a little bit and said, okay, he's like, so what's your identity? Who is Mount Vernon? And, I start giving an answer and he goes, no, like not that. What's your identity? Like if I came and I said, this is who they are, what are you? And man, I tell you what, no one really asked me that. And to try to describe it to someone, I could tell pretty quick, dude, I have no idea. I have no idea. And so he was one of the first coaches that I never forgot that asked me such a personal question like that, where it's like, you know what? I got some work to do. And the crazy thing is, Daryl, that took 10 years to try to figure out as an assistant, like, man, who do we want to be? Not only that, who can we be? Like, that's a real question is, our program's very unique, right? We don't have anyone transfer out. We rarely take transfers. I had no seniors last year. 15 guys came back. Like, I got 4 guys that could make a ton of money at the Division I level. Like, it's just not normal today.
Right.
But you can't do that everywhere, right? I know we're unique. So I think trying to figure out, okay, here at Grace, who can we be? Who do we want to be? And then how do we do that? So I'll give you a quick story real quick. This is when I know we reached part of it is we're recruiting a kid out of high school. He happens to be a senior this year, Ian Rosh. He's going to be on the short list for National Player of the Year in the country. He's just a phenomenal young man. Could be making a lot of money right now playing at the Division I level. Decided to come back to Grace for senior year. Coach Moore's thankful for that because we're going to win a lot more ball games with him here. But I remember his senior year in high school, not a heavily recruited kid, but we'd kind of gone through this process. I was in kind of my 3rd year at the time or 4th year, something like that. And he had just gone to a recruiting trip to a rival school of ours. And I'm at a high school game with my assistants on a Friday night here in Indiana. And those coaches were also at that game. And they had just had Ian Rosh on campus as a visit. And I remember kind of overhearing their conversations with my assistants. And they said, yeah, we had Ian on campus, but you know what? Like, I think we kind of get it now. He's a Grace guy. Like, he's going to Grace. Wow. And I told the assistants on the way home, I go, fellas, it's the first time I felt this. We've got it figured out. Like, not only do we know who we are, now we have teams in our league that know who we are. Yeah. Now they're telling us, no, that's a Grace guy. So I think I owe a lot of that, and he doesn't even know this. In fact, I'm not even sure where Coach G is at right now. He's kind of floated around some of the assistant head coaching spots, but like that was such an impact for me when I was 24 years old to be like, dude, what's your identity? Now figure out, can you do that at the place you're at? And now you got to go do that. So to go back to your question of like, what do you look for? What is this? Like we already said it. The shoot, pass, and dribble is a big deal. And I think part of my playing style too, Daryl, has a lot to do with it. I was a point guard. I got to play. We won a lot of ball games growing up, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. I played on a great high school team. I already know that, losing to Mike and Greg in high school. They're so good when you only have to use their first names.
Exactly, right?
Connolly's still playing, which is still incredible. Yeah. But literally, like, college had a great, career. Overseas, we won a lot of games, but I was never the guy, ever. I was a good player, was never a great player. I felt like my strong suit was I could take a group of guys and I could make them better. Yeah. And so that was what my role was. And it's funny because anytime we had open gyms or things like that, and I wasn't one of the ones picking teams, it was always interesting to me why I was always picked one of the first people. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be one of the best players. Like, why would you skip on him and pick me? And I've used that in my coaching career as like, hey, fellas, your job is to be so good at what you do that if we're picking teams, you're picked first. Right? Everybody wants you. Everybody wants to play with you. So you kind of throw that mix into, we have a physical attribute. You've seen us play. We're 6'5" to 6'10". I like that. Try to be the interchangeable where like actually true interchangeable. Hey, you have to be able to shoot, pass, and dribble. You got to be able to handle the ball. You got to be able to shoot the ball, pass the ball. You got to be able to guard 4 positions. But most importantly, you have to value winning the game more than anything about yourself. And I think that's the hardest thing today, Daryl, with kids. And unfortunately, with what we have told kids, it's a very transactional business now in college basketball. And unfortunately for these kids and these parents, like, look, you can blame them all you want, but when we've created what this is, how do you blame an 18-year-old kid for playing at one school and then going to another and then going to another and going to another when you're going to hand out dollar? Yeah, like you're rewarding for what we say we don't like. Yeah. And so I just wanted to go in the opposite direction of that is, we spend a lot of time on the character piece. And I think I'm probably more in the recruiting process. I probably recruit more kids. This is going to sound weird, not to come to Grace. And essentially saying like, hey, I sit them on the couch and I say, we want you. Yeah. But you have to understand what you're joining because this is not for everybody. Right. And if you're not willing to do this, everybody says, yeah, everybody say, oh, I love it. Until you get to that situation where you're like, hey, I'm really, really good. And coach is playing me 20 minutes a game. And we're 31-2, but like, I'm not getting, my shots.
Not getting mine. Not getting mine.
Yeah, I told you this. Like, there's no surprises. So doing this longer, I'm much more confident in like, hey, this is what you're joining. If you want to join this, please, it's a knockout. But if you don't, no hesitations here. Like, we're not changing how we approach this. I'll change how we play based on, look, if we get a stud in here, we get the, Elijah Malone comes in, is like, okay, the ball's going to him, right? Like, let's not be an idiot.
Right. No, good points.
And the crazy thing is, Daryl, the thing I've learned the most is what I don't know. At 24, I knew everything. At 41 years old, dude, I'm so like, there's so much I still need to figure out about this game and the kids who play this game. Like 20 years ago, coaching 20-year-olds looked a certain way. In 2026, coaching 20-year-olds looks a different way, right? And it changed yearly. So, yeah, man, I love it. I love that piece. I love not being transactional. I think that's my favorite part is like, I tell every parent that sits on this couch, I'm going to promise you right now one thing. You're going to get one thing from Coach Moore, and I guarantee you this. I'm going to love your kid. That's the only promise you're going to get. I'm not going to tell you he's going to play. I'm not going to tell you he's going to start. He could be an All-American. He could not be an All-American. I'm going to love your kid. That's it. Yeah. And if you're looking for something else, Grace isn't for you, and that's okay.
Yeah, but that's a good point.
Someone's coming.
That's a good point. I love that, right? And that's the honest piece. As parents, my 3 sons, I would want someone to say, hey, Junior is going to play 30 minutes a game because I know he is. But when you hear that, as a parent, you want to hear that. But if you sat down in an empty room, a dark room, and thought about that, that coach is lying to you. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's that leadership piece you talked about, which is very well respected by, I'm sure, by parents, and even your contemporaries as well, too.
Well, so what it does too is the kids who do come, then it really like, what you're getting. You're getting something special.
No, we love it. We love that. And, that's a great bridge. Right. So that's a great bridge. So it's one thing to have a great offensive scheme on the whiteboard. But execute, comes from wearing guys down, putting the jersey on the right way. Under the leadership, Grace hasn't just won games.
Mm-hmm.
You've been consistent and developed players. You just talked about elite talent. NAIA, the name, grades, NAIA is synonymous, right? All Americans, maintaining great GPA. That's another thing. I'll follow you all on Twitter. Those GPAs, I'll follow. Believe me, that matters. You build a reputation as a master builder of talent. But I want to talk about peak performance from your roster day in, day out, right? Let's talk about a player from good to elite. When a guy like Elijah Moore this is such a segue, comes through your program, what does that individual develop in a roadmap look like behind closed doors? And how do you balance refining, those natural talents, looking at his weaknesses, because he does have them, and partnering up with the players on the team? I know it's a long question, but we just talked about Elijah. Fit him in, talk to me right now. Let the viewers know what he meant to you, what and how he helped your program, and the challenges that he created as well too.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people don't understand behind closed doors. Is they always see the Saturday games or the Wednesday games. They see the conference championships, they all see the good stuff, right? But there is challenges. There's challenges when you're coaching, and the way we coach is, I tell these kids this is like, look, when you sign up to play here, man, you are stuck with me, and you're stuck with me for life. And just because, like, I love what I do, but I don't love the game. I love the kids. I love the boys. Daryl, I got and I'll show you this. Like, my trophies, you see some things hanging up there, but here's the trophies right there in my office.
There you go.
Every single dude that graduates for Grace College that I've coached goes up on that wall in an 8x10. And what I get to do is I get to come in my office every day. I get to look at that wall, and I get to smile, and I get to think about each one of those kids who impacted my life while they were here, as much as hopefully I impacted theirs. But there is a process. Like, when they come in at 18, the biggest thing that we've tried to do is teach them how. So I go into that a little bit, where a lot of programs, a lot of sports in general are going to teach you the what. Like, here's what we do, right? Here's the offensive structure, here's the defensive structure, here's what. I think we miss out, though, on like, okay, but here's how we're going to do this. And, I sit down, I try to invest a lot of the kids. And I think this goes back, you've heard this before, is like, the kids won't really care what you're talking about until they realize how much you care about them. And I try to do that on a daily basis. We do try to get vulnerable with our kids and kind of show them behind the closed curtains of like, look, man, like, Coach Moore ain't perfect. If there's something that I make mistakes on or something like that, I'll be the first one to admit it and tell them. But, a guy like so E came to us. It's crazy to even think about this, Daryl, is he came to us. He had 2 offers out of high school. 2. And, he came, and, he was a little chubby, right? He's a little big. He's 6'10", 295 pounds to begin with, but had a lot of baby fat on him. But man, I saw something inside of him where it's like, this kid's a little different, man. He's got a fire, and I don't have to convince him to work. He was a really hard, determined, almost to a fault, where it's like, hey man, you need to take today off. Like, you're doing too much, right? But where I saw it change was when E finally, I think, saw me as more than just his basketball coach.
Yeah.
I think something clicked because, some young men, they have some different situations with their father growing up, and, we're all searching for something like that. I think you'll be the first one to tell you, like, we all want validity from our fathers.
Yes, sir.
You want that, hey, congratulations, son, good job, son, and it just anything, grandpa, dad, whatever. And like, there was a moment that I noticed that just he looked at me differently. And from there, I said, man, God's given me an opportunity in a young man's life where basketball is what we're doing right now, but I need to use this and go a little bit deeper with him.
That's
and
awesome.
So the one thing that I think appreciated from me is I was not going to let, just because E was, a unicorn at this level, I was not going to let him get away with just not doing what is expected for everybody. So, hey, E got kicked out of practices more than anybody else, right? And, when E was not with it, like, we'd let him know. And there were some times, and we had a lot of heart-to-hearts, in behind closed doors. But to see the kid mature and just like, man, I'm so proud, not just of E, but of all these kids where they continue on. And when they're done to see, and he had some tough times at Colorado. Like, he was going and he's playing in the Big 12 now. So like those dudes are tough, right? And so he's going to be the best player in small college basketball. And now he's trying to bang with these Big 12 guys, and Kansas is kicking his butt, and Houston's kicking his butt, Texas kicking it. Like, it's really hard. But I think his time here, and I guess I could tell this story. I don't tell this a lot of story, but I remember, after his 4th year here, he sat on the couch and he had the COVID year. So that's why he could extend to play. And I remember him saying, hey, I want to come back. I want to come back to Grace. And I'm like, E, man, like, trust me, like, I love that. Sign me up, man, because we just won a lot more games. But like, dude, someone's going to pay you. And at the beginning, I didn't understand the money part. I was like, someone's going to pay you $100,000 to play basketball. Like, you gotta, like, your situation, man, like, this is good for you. And it's only a year. Yeah. What I didn't realize is going to be a lot more than that. But like, to have that where it's like, hey, no, you're my family. Like, I want to be with my family. And me as his family saying, hey, I love you, but the best thing for you is to go. And also, we got Ian Scott behind you, and we got other guys behind you. Like, it's their turn, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do is, I will say this, the 5-and-5 thing has come into play, and it's going to start next year in the NCAA. And it hasn't happened yet for the NAI, and it probably will. We usually follow suit. But what I'm excited, Daryl, is to sit down and say, okay, when we recruit these kids, now I've got a bunch of kids on my wall that I can say, hey, look, every one of these kids on this wall got a diploma. They all played 4 years at Grace College. Some of them went on to play at other places, but they never left early. And so what I'm going to pitch is like, hey, come to Grace, have a great situation, be a part of something special. And then if you're blessed enough to have the opportunity, let us help you go make a couple bucks and go live that dream out, right, in that 5th year. You're not coming back to Grace. Like, don't get a master's here. Don't like go. Someone's going to pay you $150,000. Like, go experience it. It's good for you, right? And what I've appreciated the most is most of those guys who have went on to play at the next level have all said the same thing where, no, this was home. This was their college experience. That was just something fun they did beside that. But when they talk about like the basketball side, the family side, it always comes back to Grace. And that's what I'm most proud of with guys like Ian Scott, the twins. We're going to have some other guys this next year be able to go and play. And it's cool, man. It's a neat situation. It's cool. I
see it on your face, man. I see it on your face. And I love this. So it's crazy, right? So I got these lists of questions in my mind because I've been thinking about it. And during this conversation, I've cut those questions in half because the synergy is just there. We're rolling so good, and I love it, right? So I was going to talk about the season, the players, all of that. I was going to have all that, but you covered all that, right? And I love it. So it gives me time to talk about New Year's Eve last year, right?
Yeah.
Coming down to Gamers Life, I saw your boys in person. We got down there on the floor. I'm sitting there like a blushing father, man. Me and Isaiah, I'm happy as hell. I said, I don't care what time I get home. It's New Year's Eve, but I'm hanging out with my man Scott Moore and Grace and watching these guys hoop, right? So I want to talk about those players last season, and that was around mid-season. You got off to a really, really long start, like every year you do. that mid spot, you get that lull, right? You get that love. The holidays are here. The Indiana winters in January will hit a little different than other places, right? Talk to me about that lull. Finish off the season. In my view, I wanted a title, but I would imagine you would say you had an absolutely successful season. And I want you to chronicle from New Year's Day, really New Year's Eve day, to the end of the season and what you learned from your team. And then I want you to talk about some of those guys I saw that got some really good ball skills. I don't want those guys, current guys, to be left out because there are going to be some people that people are going to be hearing about.
Well, that's the neat thing too about this whole thing is it's those kids that come and go. They're not forgotten. They are etched in the history of this and what they have, built. They've built this. And what's neat is it's always someone else's. And I think there is these boys have done a good job of creating this kind of mini legacy where they can't go back to the 80s and 90s, but they can go back 5-10 years ago where they know the Malones, they know Ian Scotts, the Carter Stoltzfus, they know the Jake Waddings, Eddie Gills, they know those guys put on that jersey. And so there is a really neat respect level of hey, when I throw this sucker on, I know who did this before me, right? Mm-hmm. So last year, you said, what'd you learn about your team? Man, what did I learn about me? That's the other thing is as coaches, you're sitting there going, okay, this is a new situation for us. We're sitting here with no seniors. We had essentially, 2 juniors that played. We had 8 freshmen and 5 sophomores. And so we're playing all these kids. And you know how it is. When you're playing at the collegiate level, especially in the Crossroads League, it's we always used to joke, if you're a freshman and you're playing in our league, there's 2 things that are probably true. Either you're very special or your team is terrible. And so I
pick a side.
Seriously, we went into the season. I was like, okay, look, we won a ton of games. We just made another Elite 8 run. We graduated 7 seniors. We got to bring all these freshmen in. These guys don't know what they're doing. But what I saw was it was really fun because I got to kind of reteach the game of basketball a little bit. When you're with certain guys for so long, they know you know them, they know the program. And it can be this kind of dangerous of hey, let's fast forward to March. Let's get there. We want to get through all this other stuff. We just want to get to March.
Yeah.
Well, with this new team, what was really neat is, we talked a lot about this kind of, I'll give you this symbolism a little bit. This Chinese bamboo, right? You plant this bamboo and year 1, nothing happens. Year 2, nothing happens. Year 3, nothing happens. Year 4, nothing happens. So it takes all this time. You don't see anything. What you don't realize is when you plant Chinese bamboo, the roots are growing and growing and growing. And then in year 5, year 6, nothing grows faster up than Chinese bamboo, right? Up to a foot a day in some cases. And so we use this kind of symbolism look, guys, we are Chinese bamboo in this situation. I don't know how long it's going to take, but the seeds have been planted. We are there, but you got to grow those roots, man. You got to establish your foundation. And at some point, that thing's going to go through the ground and it's going to shoot up so fast and it's going to be crazy. What I didn't realize, Daryl, was we got to about Thanksgiving. I'm holy freaking cow, these guys are really good.
I remember that conversation.
They're really good. So you get to that Bankers Live. What a cool situation. We get to do it again this year. We're going to do it on December 29th. We get to do it before the Pacers game this year, which is going to be awesome.
Count me in.
So that what a cool situation that is. But yeah, man, we got to there and I think we were at that point number 1 in the nation where I didn't expect to be just with young kids. And, we sat there and hey, we could do this thing, but let's not fast forward on this kind of bamboo idea. We got to get a lot better. And these kids got to get a lot better. So as far as the lull and the season and how long and the weather change, I think the one thing we've done a really good job is we really do focus on, I know it sounds cliche, but every single day is kind of our next battle, right? And we try not to fast forward. We try to keep it in-house. We try to focus so much on the simplicity of the day-to-day, where I think our guys really kind of dove into that. And so you come into this season, we have the same exact team as last year. We added one player, one freshman. Everyone else, all 15 guys came back, right? So now it's one of those, it's like, it's trying to explain to this, hey, if you think that we can just show up and just go from where we left off from last year and just be the number one team in the nation, like, you're crazy. You're crazy. You guys have to have a great summer. We got to have a great preseason. You got to stay healthy. You got to get a little lucky, right? And so, this year, probably more than ever, Daryl, I'll probably talk about the end of the season less than I ever have. They're going to start us off. We'll probably be preseason number one in the country, which is a cool thing. Like, that's really neat. I don't want to defer that. But it's also like, part of me is like, man, I wish it wasn't that way, because it's like, I don't want them to just think that stuff. It just doesn't matter.
Rat poison, right? Rat poison, right?
Yeah, it's just like, it's really neat, and it's they earn that, but at the same point, it's like, nobody can remember who the number one team ranked in the country was every single year in August. Nobody cares.
Never.
Yeah, they want to know in March, right?
So good point. Good point. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask about baby boy. We had a good time sitting in the stands, man. I just love the fact that, we had an opportunity to meet and take pictures and have family. How's the family doing? I'm just really curious and want to make sure you have an opportunity to speak about that, because as you talked about for the last 40 minutes, there's nothing more important than family.
Yeah, and I'm a big advocate of this. I had my coaches and I had a really neat opportunity. We got to speak at the Final Four in Indianapolis, our home state, the Final Four, and here they're having an NAI guy, speak on center court, which is what an honor that was. And I think I probably spoke more about that than I did the actual basketball side. I think one thing that I've learned is this whole profession, although it's challenging, although it does have its times where it can be really, really, like, it can be tough. Like, and it can be tough on a wife and kids and things like that. But, like, the fact is, I heard this one time, like, you can win every single game you play, but if you lose at home, then you've lost. And so this whole idea of, like, hey, I'm going to be a college basketball coach, but I'm going to go ahead and do it at the exposure of my family, and they're going to get the leftovers. I was never going to do that. I'll get out of this profession so fast if it took away from my two boys or my wife and not knowing their dad. I just never do this. I think if I would tell any, I've done this now. I'm going into year 18 overall. I'm not, there's so many there's better coaches out there across the board. But I guarantee you the biggest lie is that you can't have both. You can't be not only a basketball coach, but a successful basketball coach. You can have a successful program. And dude, Tony Dungy, was the ultimate, right? And we got to see him in Indianapolis for all those years, where it's like, the NFL is probably, I don't want to disregard, MLB and the NFL or the NBA and all that stuff, but like, the NFL guys are different. That. Like, those coaches, man, are wild. And to sit there and listen to Tony Dungy to win Super Bowl and literally look at his assistant coaches and go, if you ever miss one of your family's things, then I'll fire you on the spot.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking about that as, okay, this guy's in the business. These football teams are worth $10 billion.
Wins and losses.
Wins and losses control everything. But here a guy is at the highest profession saying, if you miss a family event, I will fire you. I'm thinking, man, this dude's got it figured out.
Yeah,
he's got it figured out, because there is not enough wins and losses that could trade being a dad.
Yeah.
And so they are awesome. I got a 6-year-old in kindergarten, and then we got a 1.5-year-old. That's my bulldog. He is a lot of fun. It's such a blessing for us. We live 5 minutes from the school. I get to go home at lunch. My AD and my president are amazing. If something happens that, hey, coach, I can't come in today, I got to do something, there's not even a question. It's like, hey, take care of your business, man. Thanks for letting me know. I pray for you. Hope everything's good. So
I trust you.
Yeah, man, they are good. I always tell people, being a coach is like the third best title I have. Being a dad, being a husband is 1 and 2. It's important to me because they are an extended family. They're all my older little boys, right? They're still kids, but they're a little older. But just the fact to bring them around too, I think that's neat. Is this profession allows you to bring your kids into a locker room that, like, I don't have to worry about putting my 6-year-old in a locker room with 15 of my guys, because I know what type of young men are in that locker room.
Big brothers. He's got 15 big brothers.
And you don't worry about it. You sit there and you're like, no, I want him around Gage Sefton.
Yeah.
I want him around Caleb, and I want him around Ian and Tyler and Gavin. Like, it's just, that's the best part about our profession, I think, is the ability to bring these kids around.
I love it. I know it's December 29th. Hopefully I get an opportunity to meet the youngest and the missus as well, because, we're going to be there. Game time is going to be there. I'm locking it in now, and I'm going to call my guy Dennis down at the Pacers. And listen, I don't know what my package is this season, but you better include December 29th because I'm going to be there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell my president, hey, I need a couple seats, the ones right beside the bench on the floor, so you can hear me yell at my guys. I
didn't mean, I want to sweat. I want to hear it all, right? So good deal, man. Listen, you've been great to me in game time. Like I said, you're always welcome. Not just come on Cots Corner, but Game Time Live. I know you're a football fan. I know you're a football fan. I know you're a Cowboy fan like Isaiah. So I'm a clock it in right now. I'm gonna clip this. You're welcome on any Sunday show we have on Saturday, live talking football. Because I know you got some football in you. So I want you to know this is an open invite for you to be a guest host on the Game Time Live, and we can spend some time and enjoy and have some fun and some laughs.
I love it, man. Hey, things are good right now. It's the start of the season. So as a Cowboys fan, you always understand at the start of the season, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And
you're Isaiah. You're Isaiah with less hair.
Hang on now. And I'm a Southside fan, and the Sox went from losing 100-plus games to, buddy, we are winning the Central right now. August 25th, the White Sox are in first place in the AL Central. So if you want to talk baseball, if you want to talk football, no, seriously, it's, I'm a sports guy like you. I love it. I breathe it. I just think, there's something about it. I think God made me a Dallas fan to keep me humble. I think that's one thing that, I always say, what's the worst quality you have? And it says probably being a Dallas fan. But man, I love every year. I try to go to one game if I can. I got an opportunity. I was telling you, got to go to SoFi for a Monday night football game on the field to see Dak and company. So I'm hoping, man, that defense is improved. We had a good draft. I'm hoping Caleb Downs is defensive rookie of the year, and Dallas can make their move, buddy. We're counting on it.
Well, definitely. Listen, Coach, I appreciate you being on part with what we did today. 2 big thumbs up as always. We're gonna continue to connect throughout the season, and we'll be texting back and forth. If I see, like last year, I see something great, I'm texting. What do you think, Coach? What do you think? Right? So don't worry, it's going to be coming through. Again, this is the Cots Corner with my coach Scott Moore. Somehow I think we're related. My mom's maiden name was Moore, so I know we're related somewhere down the line. I just got to figure it out.
We go to the same barber.
Exactly.
Your facial hair, though, brother.
I try. But again, Coach, I really appreciate you. Tell the family nothing but love from the Game Time and DCOT. If you need anything, we're just a phone call away. Appreciate your time. Folks, this has been Cots Corner with Coach Scott Moore of the Great Lancers. Take care of yourselves. Be safe, and we'll see you all soon.